It's the occasion of the World Economic Forum on Africa, edition number 23. In the studio with me now is Rashad Kaldany, who's a Vice President at the IFC, that's the International Finance Corporation. Rashad, thanks very much for joining us. How important is this for an organisation like the IFC?
Well, Sub-Saharan Africa is an extremely important region for us. It's our number one priority globally. For us, the globe means all emerging markets. Today, it represents 20% of our investments worldwide out of about $22 billion. So we're projecting about $4.5 billion this year just in Sub-Saharan Africa.
It's an incredibly important region then. How has that percentage changed over the years? I was talking to somebody just from General Electric a couple of hours ago, and he said there's a marked difference between this forum 2 years ago to today, for example.
Oh, absolutely. It's for us as well. 5 years ago, we were at 10% of our total and a smaller base. So you can see the tremendous improvement. Africa has grown at about 6% for over 10 years. That's tremendous, and there are just so many opportunities. Mostly on the back of extractive industries. Now the challenge is to broaden this to other sectors. One of these sectors we're very excited about is agriculture, agribusiness. There too, we used to be at $50 million. Last year, $600 million. This year, we expect to be at $1 billion or even more.
It's still a commodity, though, isn't it? You talk about extractive industries, and Africa as a continent has been at the mercy of the international commodity prices, which, is, of course, are notoriously cyclical. But agriculture is very much the same. It's a difficult business to be in, but I've always thought it's the sleeping giant. You can talk about infrastructure and telecommunications, etc. Agriculture, we're underachievers, I think.
You're absolutely right. Africa has been dependent on the commodities and then the cycles, and with the recent decline commodities there is some risk, and that's the importance of broadening. Agriculture, the reason we're making it our number one priority is, one, it affects so many millions of people. 30, 40, 50% of populations are engaged in this activity. So for us, that's critical to reach as many people as possible, to help them get out of poverty.
And it's labour intensive as well in many cases, especially in African-style agriculture.
Absolutely, it is labour intensive. But the other thing that is important is food security. That's an important factor, not only in Sub-Saharan Africa, but also globally. And that's why there's increased interest from many investors, international investors, to come here and invest. But the other thing is to go from basic producing the commodities to adding value. So agribusiness, pushing the envelope, and manufacturing is where we're especially excited.
While we're focusing on the agriculture sector of the African economy, what is your attitude towards countries like, for example, South Korea coming to Africa, taking a chunk of Madagascar, which was a highly publicized event which didn't go particularly well, and then exporting or potentially exporting all the produce back to the original country? Is that something that you embrace, but in a different format perhaps?
Yes, we embrace foreign investors coming in. We embrace having local investors. The key issue is to do it in a sustainable, responsible way. So the land issue is critically important, very sensitive in all these countries. We have very well-established policies and standards that if we get engaged, these have to be met. A lot of it has to do with consulting with the local communities, getting governments to fully embrace the approach. So it is about making sure this is done in a sustainable way.
You talked about your percentage increasing from 10 to 20% since in a relatively short space of time, and you talked about opportunity, but it's also need as well, isn't it?
Oh, there's tremendous needs, absolutely. They're mirror sides of each other. The opportunities here, which reflects the needs, are enormous to generate employment, generate revenues for the government, but to get people out of poverty.
Looking at your priorities, I looked at on your website, the priorities, number one, to develop a strong presence, if you like, in frontier markets. You talk about climate change, you talk about addressing constraints to private sector growth, infrastructure, health, education, developing local financial markets. Is it the top one that is number one for a reason? In other words, the frontier markets in Africa that need your attention?
Absolutely. We're established to go in to demonstrate that good, profitable investments can be made, and that through that people will improve their lives, providing opportunities. So the frontier today, the most challenged countries are the ones that we're prioritizing, also conflict-affected states. And out of the 38 or so countries that we categorize as such, frontier and conflict-affected states, 18 of those are in sub-Saharan Africa.
What do you make of, briefly, what do you make of the BRICS? We've had the recent BRICS forum in Durban. What about them getting a bank together? It's not as if it's a competition to you, but would you welcome that? Would you embrace it? Would you be able to work with them should it go ahead?
We absolutely embrace it and welcome it. We partner with such organizations and others around the world. And an increasing focus of our business is, in fact, what we call South-to-South investments. So from BRICS, but other countries, such as Turkey, for instance, are increasingly looking at investing in other countries. Again, great interest in sub-Saharan Africa.